Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Ground and Poundcast. Today is a very special Christmas edition. I hope all of you that are listening to this are having a fun time with your families during this Christmas holiday. And I am joined with Roy, also known as Nostradamus. We're going to be talking about a variety of MMA and also boxing topics today. So we have some drama in the MMA world, some UFC contract changes, a brawl at a boxing event. And speaking of the boxing event, we had some boxing matches we're going to go over. Roy's going to take the lead on those. So anyway, Roy, tell everybody hi.
Hi, everybody. Did anyone watch the Netflix Lag Fest the other day? Because I am excited to talk about the 4 big events that Nostradamus predicted, and they all went my way.
Well, let's talk about that. Go ahead and take the lead on that. Let's start with your first correct Nostradamus soothsayer prediction.
All right, up first, and because it was the headliner, we got to focus here. Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. The strategy for Paul was simple. Run. Run fast. Stay out of range. And if you get an opening, jump in and run again. And for 2 rounds, he stuck to that strategy. He got the first 2 rounds. He would, quick punch here and then haul butt around the ring. But after the 2 rounds, he started to slow down, and that's when he got exposed because every time that Joshua hit him, it was devastating. There were no insignificant punches coming from Anthony Joshua. And Jake Paul, his only response was to hug the legs. It looked like he learned a double leg from Raja Jackson. It was terrible.
Wait, and this was a boxing match, right?
Yes, this was a boxing match, but every time he'd get hit, he'd go down and hug the legs. Like he was trying to wrap up, but he would level change because he got hit.
And that makes a little bit of sense now because I've seen a lot of chatter online about Anthony Joshua now having the highest takedown defense record in boxing history.
Yeah, I think it was 13 times that Paul grabbed his legs.
In a boxing match.
Yeah, a 6-round boxing match.
See, whenever this fight was announced, I said it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either A, Jake rigs things by putting some stuff in the contract or just straight up paying the fight off. Or B, it's a legitimate boxing match, and Anthony Joshua is going to win by knockout. And he didn't just win by knockout. He won by jawbreaker.
He may have ended Paul's career.
Seriously, and that's something you hear a lot of people say whenever there's like a devastating knockout loss, something like that. Oh, he probably ended his career. But we actually might be serious about this one because from what I'm seeing online, his jaw was broken in 2 places, and people that are in the know on such injuries in the combat sports world say that with an injury like this, it's really hard to fully recover from it and be competitive ever again. So when you say probably ended his career, that's not a hyperbolic statement. That could be absolutely legitimate.
Well, it's one thing to have 2 breaks in the bone. It's another thing that he had to have those set with plates.
Right.
One plate is normally a career-ending injury in boxing and MMA. 2 plates, it's probably the end of the line. His only chance going forward, at least for the foreseeable future, is to fight somebody really tiny like Tank Davis or Conor McGregor.
Really, his foreseeable future is eating meals through a straw, but yeah. Yeah, that's a ugly situation. Like when I saw that knockout and just saw like he got dropped and you see the camera zoomed in on him, he just kind of looked and went, wow. That's what happens the first time you get punched by a legitimate boxer. I mean, he has fought a legitimate boxer before, and that boxer took it easy on him and went to a decision, and that was Tyson Fury's brother. His first name slipped my mind. The other Fury, and it went to a decision. But this is the first time you went against a proper knockout artist. And from what I could tell, it almost seems like Anthony Joshua probably could have ended it a lot sooner, but he was just kind of dragging it out for the show. I don't know. What do you think about that?
So I can't verify this, but I've read that Jake Paul puts in his contracts that you get paid by the round without a knockout bonus. So you're incentivized to fight longer. And that seems to make sense with the way that most of his fights go. There are multiple times that Tyson had an opening for that knockout punch and pulled the punch when watching his fight. That's why people say that the fight was rigged. I don't think it was rigged. I think that you were he just disincentivizes the knockout.
Right. It's not rigged per se, but he manipulates it where it stacks it in his favor. So it's semi-rigged. Is that a fair thing to say?
No, it's just more like an exhibition bout than a normal match. Still a professional bout, but exhibition. And Jake Paul is making a great career out of exhibition matches.
He was. I don't know if we ever will anymore.
But nobody's ever going to take him seriously as a contender as a real boxer as long as he keeps doing this.
Right.
Of course, like I said, his career is probably over, so he's going to go back to YouTube influencing.
Yeah. I mean, he made a lot of money doing that, so it might work out better for him.
Or he'll manage his brother.
Right. And let's swing back over to the MMA realm of things. And you mentioned YouTube influencers. I was actually going to save this for later on, but I think it's a good segue to go from one YouTube influencer to another YouTube influencer. So, for those of you that don't know, there's this man by the name of Jack Doherty. And I say man, he's a very young man. I don't know his exact age. He looks like he's fresh out of high school, college age probably, I'm going to guess. And he has a YouTube channel, and his whole platform for a handful of years now is to be...
He's 22.
He's 22. He looks 18, I swear. But he has this YouTube channel where his entire platform is going into public and provoking people, kind of acting stupid in a provocative way just to elicit very harsh reactions. But it's all a prank, bro. It's just a prank. Just so he could get those reactions for content. That's what he does for a living. So, at the boxing event that you just mentioned, Jack Doherty and his crew were at the event, and they were, backstage somewhere, like, I don't know, it was like by the bathrooms or merch lines or whatever, like the commons area, not the stands where people watching the fights, but, on the backside. And he's walking around and doing his normal thing. He was shooting content. He had a person in front of him filming, like walking, I guess, backwards or whatever. So the camera's like pointing at Jack Doherty and one of the Jack Doherty's, like, I guess, like co-hosts for the show or whatever. And they decided to be stupid and say something about someone in line and provoke a little reaction. And they end up getting a reaction. But do you know who the reaction was from?
Andrei Arlovsky.
Former UFC heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovsky. And Andrei Arlovsky reacted in a way that they weren't expecting, ended up getting physical, and it's kind of it's not 100% sure who swung first because there's a part of the video where it cuts out, but you do see a part where someone swings at Andrei Arlovsky, and Arlovsky returns fire, and it turns into like a 3-on-1 fight that Andre wins.
2.5 on 1. The security guard got one punch in and then got the heck out.
Right, and that's actually something I want to talk about. Like, the security guard knew, like, it's different when you're the small guy that's hiding behind the big guy, that you're not expected to get in the physical part of things. So it's really easy for you to act tough. But when you are the tough guy that needs to be put in the tough situation, it's a whole different ball game. And if you watch this video, and it's really easy to find, you go to YouTube, you can go to Twitter, you go wherever you want to. It's all over Facebook. It's all over the internet right now. You can see. X? What's that?
Is it on X?
Twitter, X. Same thing.
X?
I still call it Twitter. I think X is stupid, but
that's because you're a boomer.
I am. I'm totally a boomer. But yeah. So you see, there's a bit of a scuffle between the two smaller guys, and the security guard jumps in, and there's like one little hand-to-hand exchange between those two, and the security guard backs off, and you see the rest of the video, he never gets involved. So probably
the security guard did his job. Little broccoli head fool is about to get murdered. So the security guard comes in, lays down cover fire in the form of a beautiful overhand right, hits Arlovsky once, Broccoli gets out of the way, security guard backs off. It's not security guard's problem when Broccoli re-engages.
Right. And that wasn't a Jack where he ended up re-engaging with. It was, I think, one of the other members of his show, I guess. It was two little broccoli head-looking dudes.
High top fade.
Right. He ends up just going to town on these three guys, and you see on the video he's like looking around for like other threats and stuff like that. Is anyone else going to come at me? This is what happens when you play the game of mess around and find out. They messed around. They found out against the worst person you could play that game against, and didn't work out well for them. And now Jack Doherty is online, still barking at Arlovsky. He has his side of the story saying it was Arlovsky that, swung first, that he's the instigator. But as I said before, when I started the segment, his entire platform is provoking people in public for reactions. That's what he does. So you can't convince me that Andre was the aggressor here, because that's not Andre's style, but that is Jack's style. So Jack Doherty is saying that Andre Arlovsky was the aggressor here, and so now they're trying to set up some fight where he wants to get his security guard and Andre Arlovsky in the ring for some fight. And he even started joking around. I don't know if he's joking or not. He has to be joking, but he was saying that he wanted to do something where it's like a 3-on-1 fight where it's like him, his buddy, and the security guard. I would still take Arlovsky, even though Andre Arlovsky is way past his prime. He's 46 years old, and his win-loss record over the last handful of years does not look very good. At the end of the day, he's still a professional fighter who's leaps and bounds above, 99% of the world, to include tough people. So you want to play that game, you're going to lose. Of course, it will never happen, but if it did happen, hypothetically, it's just going to result in Jack Doherty finding a way to monetize it, make money off of it. So if Andre's smart, and I think he will be when it comes to this situation, he's not even going to take the bait on this situation. Just, he made his point, he defended himself. The internet as a whole is on Andre's side, so there's really nothing he needs to prove. I say just let it be. You won. Just let it go from there.
Yep. Andre has nothing to gain from this situation. Just move on with life.
Yeah. He won. He already won. He doesn't need anything. He doesn't need to prove anything else. He's not going to make any significant amount of money that he doesn't already have. So life moves on. And this happened at the boxing event. This is pretty much the biggest combat sports event, that happened this past week, and the only thing to talk about. So let's go back to this boxing event. What else happened on this event?
For you. You're going to love this headline. This is the best way to sum up this next fight.
Let's hear the headline.
Andrew Tate gets his butt kicked by a man in pink gloves.
Awesome. A man who apparently is not a proper boxer either, from what I gather.
No, he is a terrible fighter. At one point, he throws an uppercut and comes up off the ground, punching all the way up in the air as high as he can. It looked like like Rocky at the top of the stairs, just woo.
Yeah. So I saw some highlights of this guy in his previous matches, and it is sloppy looking. He is, from what I'm seeing,
terrible. He is not a proper boxer by any means. In this case, he had 10 years of youth on Andrew Tate and barely beat him. And that's saying something, considering I'm pretty sure I could take out Tate after this performance.
Right. So what I'm seeing
that's
here,
not being hyperbolic. The guy, every time that he throws his 1-2 combo, drops his hands and opens himself up to a counter right. He got stuck with it multiple times, never corrected it, and after 2 rounds of throwing a 1-2 occasionally, he gassed out and decided that it was jiu-jitsu and he was just going to start hugging. But it was the kind of hugging that'll get you banned from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, from what I'm seeing, this guy is overall in his boxing record is 9-3, and most of those were exhibition matches. He is young and athletic. He's a former college football player, and that's really that's his career in a nutshell. This dude is not a legitimate fighter. And I was watching is from the last fight that he had. I think the one that resulted in a draw, if I'm not mistaken. or maybe not. I'm not sure. I saw some highlights and he was like swinging and whiffing like really, really bad. Like, I'm like, this is a boxer. I don't understand how this guy's considered relevant in the fight game and why Andrew Tate would want to pick him as the person to try to come back against. It was just a sloppy match all around.
If you saw Andrew Tate fight this, you knew he wasn't getting in the ring against Darren Till.
Yeah.
That's just a murder in the making. There's no way they're going to make that fight after this performance.
And Darren Till, if I'm not mistaken, is more grappling heavy, isn't he?
Not in a boxing match.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm completely mistaken. He has a boxing and kickboxing background. He has 44 wins in kickboxing. For some reason, I was thinking he had more of a grappling background, but I am mistaken. He is mostly a Muay Thai fighter. I haven't seen him fight in a while. I know he's in the UFC and got cut a while back, a few years ago, or maybe he quit. I can't remember for sure. But yeah.
It's interesting you bring up that he's not good because after all my commentary about Tate in my notes, it says D'Amore wasn't a good fighter. He missed 80% of his strikes and was happy to hug it out.
I mean, was this a boxing event or an MMA event? From all the hugging and double leg attempts and stuff that I'm hearing, it almost sounded like it was more MMA wannabes or MMA fighters trying to box. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, speaking of MMA fighters who decided to box, we could move on to Anderson Silva versus Tyrone Woodley.
Yeah, and again, not an MMA match.
No, and I think this is their third time to meet up.
Is it?
Yep.
Well, how'd this fight go? Break it down for us.
Well, the first round wasn't too eventful. They were trying to find their range. Woodley was a little more aggressive, but overall, it was about an even round. If I had to give it to somebody, I'd give it to Woodley, just for the aggression's sake. Second started out more aggressive, and then Anderson Silva decided to do the one thing you never see anyone do in a boxing match. He feinted a knee. Woodley dropped his guard, and Silva landed a devastating left, and that was the end of the fight.
So
Woodley went for the double leg, and the ref called it.
So there was shooting for a double leg, a feint with a Muay Thai strike, a knee, which resulted in a follow-up with the punch. And this, again, was a boxing match.
Yes.
Wild times.
I got to admit, if I move as well as Silva does at 50 when I'm that age, I'm going to be ecstatic.
Fair. I mean, Tyrone Woodley's no spring chicken either. Let's see how old he is. I can look it up real quick. Tyrone Woodley, he's 43. So, yeah. I can't really look at this boxing event and think to myself that any of these competitors are legitimate, notable boxers in the sport and world of boxing. I mean, I guess that's why it's misfits.
Really
boxing, right?
Impressed with Ferguson against Spencer then, because those two can box.
Yeah, Ferguson finally ending his very long combat sports losing streak. I mean, to be fair, his losing streak is still ongoing in MMA, but in combat sports, he ended it through boxing. He is now 2-0 in Misfits Boxing and the champion of his weight class.
Yep. And, the crazy thing about Tony is that he got out there and he looked like a 40-year-old boxer, and I don't mean that in a bad way. He was crisp. He looked experienced. He waited for the openings. He didn't eat unnecessary shots. He looked incredibly experienced, but as experienced as a full-blown boxer, not an MMA fighter who stepped into a ring. All but one round, Spencer kept it competitive, even though Tony really had the advantage. Second round was a bit of an oddball, though. Of course, everything on this card had something odd to it, right?
Right.
Tony landed a solid right, and Spencer started complaining about getting hit in the back of the head. Well, Spencer starts complaining, and the ref steps in and has a conversation with him while the clock is running.
Ooh.
And then steps back out, and Tony comes in and knocks him off his feet, and then proceeds to yell at him while Spencer is on the ground.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Spencer again complains about getting hit in the back of the head. But I've looked at this fight 10 different ways. Tony hit him square. There was no back of the head nonsense to that. Sounds
like these are truly the misfits of boxing. Very apropos name for the organization. Even the officiating is very misfit.
Yep. And in true misfits fashion, in the fourth round, Spencer had to spit out a tooth. Nothing says misfit like losing parts of your anatomy.
Right. Or part of your anatomy being shattered.
Because that's the round that I had Spencer winning.
Right. So is Anthony Joshua like the only legitimate notable boxer that was on this entire event?
Tony Ferguson really impressed me, man.
Well, I mean, that's really good for him. I'm glad to hear it. He did part ways with the UFC to go into GFL and then eventually get into boxing. So is that all we had on this that little run of boxing matches? Want to jump back into the MMA world?
That's all the important card.
Right. So we mentioned Darren Till, we mentioned Tony Ferguson, people who used to be in the UFC. This is a good segue for this next topic. You know, there's been a lot of releases in the world of UFC. Some were releases from contract early because of performance. Some were their contract had expired and they just didn't renew. And some people were a little confused at why some of these people were cut. A lot of them made sense. There was a lot of people that were cut over the last month or so. It would take forever to go through every one of them, and most of them are not worth talking about. You look at their record, and it's like, yeah, they're, on like a 5-fight losing streak or something crazy like that, and it's like, yeah, they get cut. Makes sense.
I think Dana is doing a little housekeeping.
He absolutely. He is one.
Kicks in.
He is 100% doing that, but some of these cuts were still interesting. Some made sense, but some were still interesting. And then there's at least one that really didn't make sense that I really want to talk about. A lot of people were confused at this and are wondering if there's some backstage politics or something going on, but we'll get to that in a minute. So like I said, there was a lot of people that were cut recently. A lot of people. I don't have time to go through every single one of them, but I took notes on a few of them here. And here we go. I haven't done it yet this episode. It's time to start mispronouncing some names. So let's start with Merrick Bujlo, Bujlo. Bujlo, Bujlo, Merrick, whatever. Well, it's a J, so I don't know. Budgelo, Merrick Budgelo. So, this dude was undefeated coming to the UFC. He was 6-0, makes his UFC debut. He had a 100% finish rate. 6-0, going to the UFC, makes his debut, loses by decision, cut.
He just wasn't ready.
Come on, 6-0 with 100% finish rate, and you lose one. There's so many people that lose their debut match, and they still keep them around for a while. One loss on the record, outside of that undefeated and 100% finish rate, cuts just from his debut match loss. Crazy. Now, this next one is very interesting. I'm not surprised he got cut, but it's still interesting when I break down his record. So you have a guy called, another name I'm going to mess up. I'm going to mess up all three of these names. I got three that I want to talk about. Lucas, I think it's Lucas, Lukaszz, maybe Lukaszz, Brzeski. Brzeski? Let's call him Lucas Brzeski. Sounds good enough to me. So, his overall record, this is not just UFC, but his overall record is 9 wins, 7 losses, 1 no contest. In the UFC, he was 1-6, and he gets cut. 1 win, 6 losses, gets cut. Makes sense, right? Here's the wild thing. The one win he has on his record, this is a heavyweight, by the way. His one win that he has, not on his record overall, but in the UFC, was against Walter Walker, and Walter Walker's only career loss ever.
That's the thing with heavyweight, though. It can always come down to a single hit.
It's crazy that in the UFC, this dude has lost every one of his matches except for one, but the one match he won was a match that has blemished an otherwise undefeated record overall, career record. It's just a wild stat that I want to throw out there. Again, I'm not surprised he got cut. 1-6 in the UFC, not surprised. It's just the fact that his one win was against a guy who's otherwise undefeated. It's just a wild stat to me, and I felt like throwing that out there. Now, here's the one that people are really confused about, and I have researched online to see if there's some other backstage stuff we don't know about. Was this a difficult person or whatever? We don't know. But this guy, he wasn't technically released. It was his contract was up, and UFC decided not to re-sign him. Still, it's close, almost the same as being cut. It technically is getting cut. They decided not to renew your contract. It wasn't his choice to leave. Here's the thing. His name is Renat Fakhretdinov. Again, these names.
Hey, watch your mouth.
I'm sorry. Rinat is the first name. Last name is Fakhretdinov. Fakhretdinov. Retzdinov. I don't know. Renat. We're going to call him Renat. So his contract expired.
I don't know which language you're cussing in, but I know profanity when I hear it.
I'm pretty sure it's Russian. So this guy, his contract expired and he wasn't renewed. He was overall 24 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw. In the UFC, he was 6 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw. So he was undefeated in the UFC. He did have 1 draw, but still, it's just a draw, not a loss. And he has a 75% career finish rate. I saw some people online were saying, yeah, he got cut because he's boring, because, boring decisions and whatnot. They're only looking at like 1 or 2 of his most recent fights. His overall career is 75% finish rate. He has 6 decision wins and like 18, if I'm doing the math right. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I think it's like 12 KOs and 6 submissions and 6 decisions. So he has 75% career finish rate. 6-0-1 in the UFC, and the UFC is like, no, we don't want this guy. And people are really confused at this. There's a lot of people I saw on Twitter, also known as X, on YouTube. People are doing videos about this. I saw several videos about that, breaking it down. Like, why did UFC not want to renew this guy's contract? Like, this dude was on fire, had a really good career going for him. His last win was by a really good knockout. Why didn't they renew his contract? And so some people are speculating, was it something, like I said before, was it like he was difficult to work with? Was it like a personal thing? Or no one seems to know, but this one has really got a lot of people scratch their heads right now, and no one seems to have the right answer for why this guy, was not able to continue his UFC career. So I'm interested to see if there's more information that will come out later on why this guy had to, I can't technically say cut, but why his contract wasn't renewed, because it really doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm getting tired of fans saying that fighters are boring.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
If you remember the last fight that Khamzat had, the scuttlebutt going into it was that Khamzat would get beaten if it went the full fight. Afterwards, when it goes to decision, people are complaining that he's boring. The same people who previously were saying that he couldn't do that because he only trained for short fights.
I saw a lot of people saying that the reason why they hate Chimaev, he's really boring because he's nothing but a leg hugger. All he does is go to decision. They're saying all he does is go to decision based off of the last fight that he had, which is against Dricus du Plessis. Look at his record. Look at his record. He has 6 knockouts, 6 submissions, and only 3 by decision. Yet this is a decision merchant. MMA fans can be really dumb at times. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, we've got short memories. I'm not going to exclude myself. I'm guilty of this at times too, but we have short memories, and the game of MMA is a game of what have you done for me lately?
Right. For the record, that's an 80% finish rate. So that's a 20% decision rate, and that's a decision merchant apparently. Yeah, it's a recency bias thing. People look at the last fight and they say this is how he is all the time. So they saw him go against a very dangerous fighter in Dricus du Plessis. He out-grappled him, just kept him there, went to decision. So that means that's all of his fights. Just, grind out WrestleFest. That's not the case when it comes to him. But that's another topic. Back to, this fighter that was released.
Well, I got one other thing to throw in. The good thing is that MMA fans, when it comes to legacy, forget those little details and look at the overall. Look at GSP.
Right.
During the time, people complained about how boring he was. And now we look back and go, GSP, one of the best to ever do it.
Right.
Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, this guy Renat, when you look at his last 4 fights, so I'm starting there because that's his draw that he had. His only loss was actually his second fight ever back early in his career in 2013 against someone that's, some unknown fighter that I can't even pull up stats on. And then since then has never lost. He had a draw in 2023, and then he had a split decision, a unanimous decision, the TKO win. That's his last 3 fights there. And a lot of people, when I seen the commentary, were like, oh yeah, he was a boring decision merchant. I'm like, okay, so there was 3 decisions that were all back-to-back, but outside of that, again, 75% finish rate and almost undefeated. So I don't know, man. Just this cut or this non-contract renewal is a really weird one. A lot of people are talking about it right now, and I'm anxious to see if more information comes out on this because I have a feeling the story's not finished, but he did make a statement saying that he's going to be moving on to another organization. He's already had an offer, and he's going to be making good money. That's basically all we've heard from his side of things, so that's that.
Good for him. Hopefully we'll see him in the UFC again. I'm sure if Dana didn't renew the contract, he's got a good reason.
Right.
It can't be that the guy's a butthead because he allows Sarukian to hang around.
Fair. And for the record, this guy is Russian, so whatever bad words I was accidentally saying earlier is most likely in Russian. All right. Going back to your side of things, is there anything else you want to talk about on that boxing event, or did you pretty much wrap all that up?
The only other thing to bring up is I am so glad that the Netflix era is over, that UFC is going to be on Paramount and I can watch things there, because every time I watch a Netflix event, it's a lag fest. And This was no exception. Trying to watch Tate get beat down, there are times in the fight where it's a good 3 seconds. You don't see what's happening until after it's over.
I remember whenever I watched the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight, and oh my goodness, it was so messy. It was so messy. Side note, I can't remember if it was the second to last fight or third to last fight. It was 2 women fighting on that card. That was one of the best boxing matches I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've been watching since the 90s. But that's another story, and that's something that happened a long time ago, but I just want to throw that out there real quick. I remember watching that on Netflix, and I remember getting mad because it would freeze up, but then it would cut back in, and it was actually pretty exciting. And then it got worse, way worse, whenever the Tyson fight started, which tells me it's something with their servers getting overloaded because people are not tuning in as much during that women's fight. So it was cutting out a little bit, but not a ton. But then whenever Jake versus Tyson started, it was just lagging, freezing. It would cut out. It would cut out entirely, like technical difficulties, and it would cut back in. And it was just a lot of that. So it sounds like if they're going to continue doing any kind of live streaming on Netflix, and this could also apply to pro wrestling, because if I remember correctly, WWE Raw went to Netflix as well. I don't follow wrestling anymore these days, but I do know that their live events went to Raw. I'm sorry, went to Netflix. And I don't know if they're having those same issues. Probably something worthy of looking up later. But
I think it's just a Netflix issue in general, bro.
All right, but I'm just saying that when it comes to live events like that, it's different if you just upload something and you stream it later.
I think that's all of Netflix. I don't think there's any live events that don't lag on that service.
That's crazy. It sounds like they need to update their servers. So, because if you have too many people hitting it at the same time, it can cause issues like that. So that's what I think it might be. So anyway, back to the MMA world. So you know that this is the fight game. People fight, and a lot of times there's good sportsmanship behind it, but there's still a lot of ego behind it. It's still people wanting to fight each other. Sometimes feelings get involved, emotions get involved, and sometimes some real life dramas can pop up. So you have, a long history of people having back and forth drama with their upcoming opponents. You have like Chael Sonnen and Vanderlei Silva, Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen and pretty much everybody he's fought. You got Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov. There's always like these big drama things that pop up, and sometimes the drama won't even be between people that have an upcoming fight with each other. We saw like Israel Adesanya and El Cop getting into it in one press conference. There's a lot of times these things happen just because you have a lot of big egos. You got people that like to fight for a living. They have a different type of personality. And rivalries, whether it's like online beef or getting into scraps at events, stuff like that, happen. But I think the wildest rivalry, one that I never saw coming, I would have never thought in a million years would happen, popped up recently. Of all the fighters to start any kind of beef, we have former UFC light heavyweight champion Jamal Hill beefing with former women's champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk, or as I like to call her, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, because of how her name is spelled. I don't know how that's supposed to be Jędrzejczyk, because none of those syllables coming out of my mouth match any of the letters that are in her name, but that's Polish names for you. Did you hear about this beef going on between Jamal Hill and Joanna?
Yeah, didn't Joanna say something about beating up his girl, and Jamal decided that he needed to be the tough guy here?
Yeah, so it's a little more complicated to that, a little more complicated than that. So Jamal Hill did eventually release a statement to give like his full side of the story, where he was saying it was years ago he was honestly trying to shoot a shot with Joanna, and they were friendly with each other and they're texting back and forth. He said nothing ever happened between the two, but he was kind of flirting with her. And then for some reason, a few years later, I guess they weren't cool with each other anymore. And then eventually Joanna started talking trash online and saying something about Jamal Hill's girlfriend. And it's a very complicated, dramatic story, and we don't really focus on drama here. But the reason I'm bringing it up, because it could have fight implications in the future. So that's why I want to mention all this. So it eventually led to Joanna saying some stuff that was directed at Jamal Hill's girlfriend. And so there was a recent UFC event. I think it was was it the last fight night or the last pay-per-view? I think it was the last pay-per-view that they had, the one where Petr Yan fought Merab. I think it was that event, but I can't be for certain. I'd have to look it up. But they ended up running into each other backstage, and there was some back and forth, and Joanna said something about smashing his girlfriend's face into a table, and Jamal Hill says, "You touch my girl, I will knock you the F out." And so they had like a back and forth verbal altercation. Eventually they got separated, and Joanna came out with her side of the story later on. Jamal came out with his side of the story. And normally I don't really get involved with any of that and try to take sides or anything like that. And also Jamal Hill has a long history of kind of running his mouth and being kind of insufferable at times. So naturally I wasn't really siding with him. But I was bored one afternoon and I decided to go ahead and watch all of the back and forth between the two and the other people breaking it down. And from what I could tell, it sounds like Jamal Hill's story makes more sense. It sounds like Joanna is kind of a hothead and likes to run her mouth. And then, Jamal Hill responded in kind. And normally this would amount to nothing. You got two people barking back and forth. One's a male fighter, one's a female fighter. So, of course, they're not going to like book the fight or anything like that, especially he's like double her size. But Joanna, if the complicated name doesn't give it away, she is Polish, and Polish fighters like to stick together. There's another former UFC light heavyweight champion who happens to be Polish by the name of Jan Blachowicz. Jan Blachowicz is very close with Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And so he got involved, and he started saying, okay, you want to run your mouth about Joanna? I've always been cool with you. He actually said this, he goes, I've met Jamal Hill a few times. He's never been disrespectful to me, but if he's going to be saying these things about Joanna, then, we could settle this in the ring. So it sounds like this drama can actually lead to a fight between two former UFC light heavyweight champions, Jamal Hill and Jan Blachowicz. What do you think about all that?
So there's one detail that you left out that I think is critical to the entire understanding of what happened here.
Okay.
His girlfriend wasn't there.
Right. I mean, he actually did say that because he never made the claim that she was threatening her like directly, like face to face. It was just like he was saying, she was saying that about his girlfriend. And so then he responded. So I do know about that. That was a critical thing to mention, but he never tried to make the claim that she was threatening her directly. He never made that claim. But still, yes, she was not there.
His reaction from an understandable reaction if she was there to an absurd reaction of "I'll knock your lights out."
Right, I agree. That was kind of a ridiculous reaction. That's one part where I don't agree with. Like if I ran into a woman and my wife was not there and she started to me making threats at my wife, like if I see your wife, I'm gonna do this to her. I'm like, I'll probably say like, I'm not gonna let you do that. Like, I'm not gonna be like, you touch my woman, I'm gonna knock you out. I wouldn't make a comment like that, but I don't know. That's just my take on things. I do think Hill was probably out of line in saying that, but at the end of the day, I kind of understand, at least to a point, on him being defensive of his woman. And from all the evidence that I saw, it did seem like Joanna was the one that was really pushing the drama, that was pushing the issue in the first place. So that's why I am more on Hill's side than I am on Joanna's side in all of this, just because from what I could gather in all this, that she was the one that was really, poking at things. And Hill just had an over-the-top reaction like he is known to do. So
I'm on the side of Jan.
You're on the side of Jan. Fair. And that's fair. And that's actually what I was going to get to next. So, he chimed in and was like, okay, well, we could go ahead and fight. They have not fought before. They are both former UFC light heavyweight champions. I know that that Jan is on his way out, and a lot of people might think that Jamal Hill is on his way out, and he probably is, but in his mind, he is still sort of in his prime. He's still trying to work his way back up. I think that's a good matchup. So you got Jamal Hill's ranked number 7 currently. Jan Blachowicz is ranked number 5. So that could be a fun fight to watch.
I agree. It would be a fantastic fight, and we need fights right now.
Yeah, I think that would be a good fight. I don't see these guys being a legitimate challenger to the title again when you have guys like Carlos Ulberg, Ankalaev, and Yuri and Pereira all kind of in the top of the mix, But it could still be a fun fight. Two former champions.
Grind Ulberg to a decision, so it's not like he's completely washed up.
Right. He also did have a draw with Yuri Prochazka a while back, but a lot of people thought that. I'm sorry, not Yuri Prochazka, with Ankalaev. And a lot of people thought Ankalaev should have won that match, but still, he at least made it competitive enough where it was viewed as a draw. So, I mean, he's not washed. I'll even go as far as saying Jamal Hill's not washed. I think he's just been fighting better competition lately. I've broken down his fights before. I think Jamal Hill is good at certain things, but he also has glaring weaknesses that good strikers are able to exploit. So I think it would be an interesting fight between the two. I'm not quite sure who I would pick to win. Usually when Jamal Hill fights, on my predictions, I've picked him to be the winner, and I've been wrong just about every time. I did not pick him to be the winner against Yuri Prochazka, though. And Yuri won that one. So I was right on that one. But
you chose him against Alex?
I did.
Wow.
I know. And I in hindsight, I was like, what was I thinking? I think what it was at the time, Jamal Hill was actually on a pretty good hot streak. He'd had some really impressive wins. And he wasn't on this losing streak like he is currently. He had vacated the title due to injury. And the thing is, Jamal Hill, he does have some weaknesses, but he also has some strengths. He is a very accurate striker. He is a headhunter mostly, and he does put out pretty good volume, and he knows how to find your chin. The problem is he drops his guard a bit too much when he does it, but he is really good at landing headshots. And as much as I like Alex Pereira, sometimes he can move forward with very little head movement, and he allows himself to take hits. So whenever I looked at those facts, I thought to myself, I could see Pereira coming at him straight and not really trying to move off the center line, and Hill just throwing a lot of headshots, punches and kicks at him and landing something that would put him down. I figured if Izzy could knock Alex Pereira out unconscious, then so could Jamal Hill. So that was my reasoning behind it. In hindsight, we saw it did not play out that way. Alex completely smoked him, but that was my reasoning behind it.
I've underestimated Alex so many times, it's absurd. Even in this last matchup, I thought 9 out of 10 Alex loses.
Right. He is someone who's easy to underestimate. You look at like his overall career and you see like the impressive knockouts he has, and you think to yourself, like, how could anyone bet against this guy? But if you really watch his fights and break things down, you could see moments where he allows himself to get hit. He allows himself to get taken down. He has been knocked out unconscious before. Izzy wobbled. Even the fight that he beat Izzy in MMA, like Izzy wobbled him and almost finished him at the end of the first round. He got knocked out cold in the second fight.
He's incredibly flat-footed. He has next to no head movement,
right.
But somehow he manages to find that punch.
Right. And like whenever he fought Yuri Prohaska in their first match, not their second match, their first match, I had Yuri winning the first round. And then he just came back and won by TKO in the second round. Alex, that is. And then the second fight, Alex just smoked him both rounds. Yuri had nothing for him in that one. But, you know, I look at those attributes and think to myself, there are these little weaknesses. And if Jamal Hill is very accurate, and if you go watch his highlights, he is accurate. He's around 6'3", 6'4", so he has a pretty good reach, and he likes to swing and aim for the head, and he's like got lasers on his fists. He knows how to make them land. The one drawback is when he swings, he also really drops his guard. So I thought it could go either way, but I was leaning towards Hill, so that's why I picked Hill. Now, Jan Blachowicz, interesting because he has more of a grappling background, and I don't recall Jamal Hill really fighting anyone that has really good grappling. Not that we have a lot of really strong grapplers in the light heavyweight division, period, but it kind of makes me wonder. Let me look this up real quick. So I want to say Jan Blachowicz does have some wrestling pedigree, doesn't he? I'm going to double check this and confirm this. Let's see.
I'm not sure.
He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He has 9 submission wins. He does have some grappling credentials. So I think it would be interesting because I don't remember Jamal Hill fighting anyone other than pure strikers. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be an interesting one. I would like to see this fight. I think it's a good fight for both these guys because they are ranked close to each other and they're both former champions. They both want to work their way back up. So this would be a good test to see where they are outside of the top 4 or top 5 if you count the champion.
Yeah.
So, what's pretty much all I had on the latest news in the MMA world and the boxing world. Anything else you want to add?
There's one thing I want to throw out there, and that's I think that they're messing up giving Pimblett versus Gaethje a shot at the belt. That they needed that fight to happen. It didn't need to be for a belt. If you're going to do the belt, it should have been Arman against either Charles or Max.
Yeah, that would be a really good topic to break down more thoroughly when we get closer to when that event will be. We could really deep dive into all that. That's a really good topic, actually. We should pocket that and really do a deep dive in that later because I think there's a lot that all three of us, you, me, and Rick, could all say on that topic.
I agree.
No, it will be a fun fight, though.
The most pressing thing that is coming up, and I've been thinking on it a lot, and really, I'm a huge Paddy Pimblett fan, but he doesn't deserve a title shot, and there are other people who have earned it and are sitting right there.
It will be a fun fight, though.
Yes.
Right.
That fight needed to happen. It just didn't need to be for the belt.
Right. Well, anyway, that's all I got. So this was the first episode of the Christmas special. We're going to follow up with a part 2. It is going to be myself and Rick. We're going to be going into a few more topics. So probably be a few more weeks before we hear again from Roy. So if you got anything else you want to say before we hear from you again, go ahead and tell us now.
Ho, ho, ho. Have a Merry Christmas.
That was a very long Merry.
I'm very merry.
Makes sense. You all have a good one. I hope you all have a wonderful time during the holidays with your family.